It's me, Emily, here with my dog Lily. Say hi, Lily. Yeah, she's totally looking out the windows. Anyway, I am here to talk to you about my crafts some more. Um, it's been a long time since my last video. I'd actually been meaning to film like 2 weeks ago and then a week ago, but I've really not been doing that much. Um, in January. January was hard because I came back from my parents and then school started and I just was like super busy. But now that we're in February, I'm kind of back on my game and doing a lot more stuff. Although with not having January, I don't have all that much stuff to show you. But it should still be interesting, I hope. Other minor note is that I checked and I've got 45 subscribers now, which is kind of awesome. So if you're one of the 45, you're awesome. If you're not one of the 45 and you're interested in seeing more of my videos and you like round numbers like say 50 and you want to make me happy, you might consider subscribing. That would be super cool. Um, and if not, that's also cool too. I don't really care that much. Anyway, like always, I'm going to talk about a different variety of crafts. If you're only interested in one or some, go ahead and use one of the buttons at the top to skip ahead, or behind if you go forward and you want to come back. It's all good. Um, anyway, I hope you enjoy what I have to show you today. So, let's start by talking about my cross stitch and other needlework type projects. The first thing I worked on, and really the only thing that I worked on in January since my previous video, was the round in circles stitch along. Ooh, I found a needle. I'm going to stick that needle on my needle binder. It's the round in circles stitch along. It's by Mabel Figworthy. It's a yearly stitch along, and it starts with some basic easy Hardanger, which is a cut thread work, and then it moves on to the more complicated. Okay, let me make sure I'm showing you the front. So, this is going to be hard to see because I'm doing it largely white on white, but this was the January block, and this was the February block. As you can see, it's called round and circles, and they are pretty round. And the January block is, well, the whole thing is done on white 22 count Hardanger cloth with white pearl cotton and regular embroidery floss, and then Petite Treasure Braid silver. And I've also got a silver Mill Hill bead on this central spot right here. So I'm going to try to angle this so that you can see the January block. So it is apparently a bunch of fairly traditional Hardanger motifs, although it does not include any cut work. She decided to wait till February to do the first cut work. But it was pretty cool. I really like the way it looks. The only thing I don't love about it is the fact that it's not really a circle, it's like straight, and then it's like a little angle and a little angle and a little angle and then straight, and then angle, 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 straight. And I would prefer it if it were more circular. And I was actually thinking about ripping out the little not quite round border and making it a hexagon, but I don't know for sure if I'm going to need that little bit of extra bowing out on future things. And also, once I did, oh, here, I can look at you through this. Once I did the February block, and I had two of them side by side, I decided I liked it more. So this February block is more of the same. It's still white on white with silver. Got our first cut thread work here. Got a little silver sparkly bits. And to be honest, I don't like this one as much as I like the January one. On the other hand, it's just good practice because I want to learn more about doing Hardanger. And so I figure this is a good way to practice because in her previous stitch along, and I think what's going to happen in this stitch along, the patterns have gotten increasingly complex the further the year is gone. So that's what I've got so far. I'm quite enjoying it. I believe that it is still open for registration if you like those patterns. It was pretty cheap for a whole year's worth of patterns. And I am planning on, when I get done with this, turning it into a either a wall hanging or framed or somewhere in between. I have some ideas for how I might do that. but I haven't fully decided. But I do know where I want to put it on my wall, so that's nice. I'm looking forward to that. All right. So, oh, and I should just mention, Hardanger's traditionally done white on white, which is why I did white on white. But for this pattern, she strongly recommends that you have a different color because some of the stitches look better in two colors. And so that's why I've got the silver. And also I liked the idea of white and silver together. So that is my first bit, is the Round and Circle Stitch Along by Mabel Figworthy. My second piece of cross-stitch type material is my For Heavenly Beasts pattern, which is a Heaven and Earth design. It was, in theory, if I can get my binder clip, sit on there, thank you. It is based on artwork by Kaomi Hirai and charted by Michelle Saeta, and this is what the final product is going to look like. So I am working in the upper left corner, and last time you saw this, I think I was about halfway up here, and so I've gone all the way down to the bottom of the page. I work in about 20 stitch columns, so this is 2 columns of 20 stitches, so 40 stitches, and almost to, I'm going to have, well, not almost the edge of the page, a third of the way to the edge of the page. My last column will finish the page. So that is very nice. You can see I do the staggered edges and I don't really see any signs of where my edge between the columns were. I am super excited by this little bit right here because I'm pretty sure that let me do this on this side. I am pretty sure that that is Tiger's side right above her hip. Right there. Right here. So that's super cool. I like it a lot. One thing I'm definitely noticing, and I haven't done, this is my first Heaven and Earth design, so I haven't done any other ones, but there's definitely a bit of a color difference. So this has got a lot more like red in the sky background, and this is a lot more like yellow and tan, which I don't object to. It's fine. It works. It's just something that I was interested in that I didn't necessarily expect was how big of a color difference it is. And then, just as another random fun fact, you can see my needle minder over here is just a button attached to a magnet that I did with quite a few needles on it. I had all but one of those needles full at one point when I was working on this because I park, I do parking and I work one 20 stitch row at a time. So because that would be really time consuming to unthread and rethread my needle every time, I just leave my needles threaded. So anyway, it's fun. Oh, and if you're interested in me doing a video on how I park, let me know, because I think that I've seen a lot of people talking about it, but they usually do the 10 by 10 squares, and I do a 20 by 1 row. So anyway, if you're interested, let me know. Those are my parked threads waiting for later. I am excited. I'm going to stop working on this and go back to my, the morning flight. I'm going to go back to the morning flight today, if I get a chance to stitch today, otherwise tomorrow when I get a chance to stitch. So we won't see this for a while yet, but I'm excited about the fact that the next time I see it, I'm going to be starting on the last column of the first page. So that is cool. And that is actually all that I have to talk about as far as cross-stitching and needlework goes. I just wasn't really in the mood to do a lot, aside from those stitch-alongs, and then when I picked this one, the For Heavenly Beasts back up, I think if I didn't have other projects that I wanted to get done, I would be totally happy to stitch For Heavenly Beasts all day, every day. Like forever. It's awesome. I like it a lot. I am definitely planning on doing more full coverage type designs in the future just because this is my first one and I love it so much. So that was my cross-stitchy type update. The next thing that I'd like to talk about is where I am on my knitting. And I have some super exciting news as far as my knitting is concerned. So you may recall that last time I was talking about this shawl that I'm knitting for a friend. Oh, Lily's sliding off my lap. That I'm knitting for a friend that I liked, but I was tired of. I was ready for it to be done. And I have news. It's not done, but I'm binding off. And so far, I have over half of it bound off. So going from, hang on, one moment. Okay, so from this corner, I've gone all along this side to, let's see, to the peak, which is here. Oh, and I have my little progress tracker so you can see that I've done from here up since the last time you saw it. And I've gone a little bit past that peak, and I'm here. So I think I've got about a third left to bind off, which at the rate I was binding off is probably going to take me somewhere around like 45 minutes to an hour. It takes a lot longer than I expect it to bind off with this. They have you, it's the regrowth shawl, the designer is Toby McNutt, and he has you do that, like, knit two, slip them back, and knit through the back loop to reduce that down to one, and then knit another one, slip them back onto your left needle, knit through the back loop, the two of them through the back loop together, and so on and so forth, which seems to be creating a really nice edge that seems to be more like on top than the usual bind off is, I feel like. I don't know. I could just be imagining things. But the upshot is that's a lot of working each individual stitch. The other thing I find is kind of interesting is you can already see how this has got a little bit of a point at these two, like at the tips of this little sections in the lace repeat. So I can definitely tell that when I block it, I'm going to block it into having like points, which will be nice. So we've got, as I've shown you before, but there's like this first like kind of star, I think they call it the star stitch, and then there's this kind of blossom stitch, and then the leaf. In theory, if I could show it to you, the leaf stitch, and then there's these owls. Here you can see its little eyes and its little beak and the little horns of its ears. And then above that, we've just got a little lace border, which was a lot faster to work than I thought it was going to be. So I didn't realize until I was working the lace border that actually there's a pretty dramatic increase in the number of stitches on the owl chart, and the lace edging chart actually brings that back down by a fair bit. Like, not enough that it's going to be like all scrunched up or anything, but enough that it was actually substantially faster to work. It also didn't hurt that it was a lot of like yarn over, knit two together, yarn over, knit two together. So the end is very much in sight on this thing. I'm hoping to finish binding off tonight, and then in the next couple of days I will block it. And it's 100% wool. It's the Knit Picks palette yarn in grass. So I'm planning on wet blocking it, soaking it and petting it out, and I'm planning on wet blocking it pretty aggressively because the friend that I'm making it for wants a big shawl, and it's big. Like, it is really big right now, and it's going to get even bigger when we block it. But I will try to remember to get a picture for you when I get it fully cast off and before it's blocked, and then possibly while it's blocking, and then definitely after it's blocked, so I can show you. I'm probably going to give it to my friend before I film next, but I will be able to show you the difference before and after it gets blocked. So there's that. Oh, and I see a tapestry needle for my cross-stitching on the carpet, so I'm going to have to pick that up after I get done with this, not forget that. All right, so that's my most exciting knitting news, is that shawl is so close to being done. Okay, so after the shawl, the next thing that I worked on, it's not the next thing I worked on, but the thing that I worked on not next most, like the second most amount, I guess. The thing I'm second most excited to show you, something like that, were these, okay, this is a little mess. These socks that I was working on. So you can see that I was here, and I've done a fair bit since. Now, the story with these socks is I originally was going to do the gentleman's matrimony celebratory socks, maybe? Well, let me check the name. Matrimonial? Gentleman's matrimony celebratory socks. I can never remember if it's matrimonial or matrimony. It is a free pattern on Ravelry by Sockbug. But what ended up happening was I didn't feel like doing the texture. It has like this kind of like pearl bump spiral on it, which is cool and all. I just didn't feel like doing it when I got to doing this. So I was just using the gauge and stitch count, but not the pattern. And then I realized that I don't really like this yarn at that tight of a gauge. It is a discontinued yarn. It is Naturally Karen Spa. I wonder if you can see this through the plastic bag now. I'll just pull it out. Naturally Karen Spa. It's a bamboo blend. And it's very silky and very soft. And it's not something I would normally use for socks, but I want these to be bed socks. So I want them to, they're not going to take a lot of abuse. And I kind of want something that's not going to like cling to my feet really well. I don't want something that fits super tightly. So I'm thinking something like bamboo, which tends to stretch out and then not spring back, is what I'm trying to say. It tends to stretch out and not spring back. It's probably going to be something good for me, because often what happens with bed socks is I want to kick them off in the middle of the night. And so if it's easy to kick off, I can do that in my sleep and I don't wake up to deal with that. But at the gauge that they wanted it, because this is, I think, DK weight, at the gauge that the pattern called for, it's just really tight. And I'm sure that if it were wool, I would like that. But like this, it's just not nearly as silky as I know that it can be. And since I'm like, well, you know, I'm just doing this in plain stockinette, I don't really need the pattern, I'm currently swatching on a larger needle size. The previous one was on size 1s, I'm swatching on size 3s. This is a much softer, nicer fabric for what I want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish swatching. I've got a little tube going here. I'm going to finish my swatch and then give it a quick wash and measure it. And there's a sock calculator for, I believe, toe-up socks that I've used before, the name of which I cannot remember, but I'll tell you when I am next showing you things, because at that point I will be using that, because I'm just going to measure my gauge and measure my foot and then go from there. And I think I mentioned in the last one I was thinking about trying the Fish Lips Kiss heel, and I'll definitely be trying that in this particular sock now that I'm just kind of winging it. So it looks like the only thing I don't like about this yarn, can you see that little bit there? Okay. This is not like a snag. It's where I didn't catch all of the plies of this yarn with my needle, because it's a very loosely plied yarn. That drives me nuts. But to be fair, this is just a swatch. I'm not being super careful. My plan, though, is to do my swatch, measure it, do the calculations, and get the sock, recipe for my gauge and the size that I wanted, and then go toe up 2 at a time. Which will, again, make it easy to just have them and knit for a while and not have to worry about exactly how many rows I'm doing to make a match. So that's what's up with that one. One of those 1 step back, 2 steps forward type of thing, I think, because I think I'm going to like this a lot better, both to knit and the final product when I make it a little bit looser. So that's that. The next thing I went in a plastic bag, so I apologize. The next thing that I've been working on is my 10-stitch blanket. It's a recipe, no, it's not a recipe, it's a pattern. It's a pattern free on Ravelry by Frankie Brown for this nifty little blanket thing, and it's called the 10-stitch blanket because well, that's failing at showing you things, because you start here with 10 stitches and you go back and forth on your 10 stitches and you spiral around and around and around, and you're only ever working with 10 stitches at a time. And I'm doing mine out of totally random acrylic scraps or acrylic blends. These two pinkies are Woolies, which is a acrylic wool blend. And so I'm working with Aran weight scraps. Now, as you might recognize from the two blues that I'm working with, I am using up the blues from my rug, which I finished, well, I want to know, like maybe my second video, maybe my third video. And so I've got this plastic bag that I've put like all of my little balls of scrap. I'm going to try not to spill them everywhere. Little balls of scrap yarn. If it was like a lot of one color, I split them into 2 balls so that way there would be a little bit more variability. I also grabbed some scraps that I had from ages ago, and I did some like smaller balls of those, smaller balls that I wound up. I even did some like, I think they call them magic balls, where you just knot or otherwise attach, well not, attach yarns of different colors together and then just wind them up. And I did a couple of those with some really short scraps that I had that weren't going to be more than like a row or 2 each, or sometimes more. So basically what I'm doing is whenever I'm working on this, which isn't all the time, it's kind of just I feel like doing this type of a project, I'm not in any huge rush on it. Then whenever I run out of yarn, I just reach into the bag and I pull something else out, and I make no effort to make it match or anything. My plan is if it turns out like cute and mismatched, it'll go to a homeless shelter or some sort of place where there would be someone who would want like a bright, cute, cheerful blanket. And if it turns out more ugly than cute, then I'll just give it to an animal shelter because the dog is not going to care what color blanket it's lying on. So, anyway, that is what I'm doing with that. And I just keep it in a plastic bag, so it's a little bit loud. Then the only other thing that I've been working on in the kind of, it's not knitting, but in the kind of like knitting arena is my spinning, which there's probably not like a huge visual difference unless you go back and compare to my old video and you see how much smaller the amount of spun yarn was. However, I do think that my yarn is currently a lot neater than it was when you last saw it. Like when you last saw it, it was pretty neat, especially for a beginner, because this is my first time spinning. But I think I've gotten even neater. So I've just gotten this done. I still have all of this to go. I'm spinning Knit Picks Full Circle Roving in Fawn, which does not come in a braid, but I just braided it to make it easier to keep it within this little sleeve that it did come in. It smells like sheep. Oh yeah, and this too, because this is off of that and all this jazz. So anyway, things are coming along. I'm really enjoying it. I think I'm getting a lot more even. Interestingly, my biggest issue was I was having some issues with drafting consistently. And I started watching the Andre Sue Knits podcast, and she has this little segment in her intro where she shows this super brief clip of her spinning. And that super brief clip, I looked at it and went, oh, that's what I'm doing wrong. And so everything got so much easier and more consistent after that. And I can't really describe what I was doing wrong because, I don't know, it was something that I just couldn't get from a book. I just looked at her doing it and was like, duh. Even after watching other videos, I don't know. I didn't get it from there, but I got it from her. So, go Andre Sue Knits. She's also cool for other reasons. She's got a really cool podcast. But for me personally, it was that teeny tiny short clip of her spinning that just made everything so much better. And I'm hoping now that I'm almost done with that shawl that I'll be able to do some more spinning. I've been choosing to work on the shawl instead of other things, including that spinning, just because I want to get it done soon. I'm really excited to get it done. So let's see, shawl, sock, spinning, yep. That is everything that I had to talk about in the knitting, spinning, fibery world. All right, another drink. So for sewing, I have not done a lot of sewing, but I have continued to take my little dragon puppet and take the little threads that are left over from quilting him in little short quilting runs, pull them to the back, knot them, and end up with these very neat, very pretty pieces, which I will be sewing together soon. And since the last time I showed you, I've gotten, I think, a couple arms and a body done. So all I have left to do are 2 arms and 2 pieces of his tail. Flip the wrong one over to show you the front. And if you don't remember this guy from last time, this is a quilted soft sculpture dragon puppet from a kit that my grandmother gave my parents quite a while back. It is this kit, and I have no idea where you would get it. I think it was made like working with a museum or something, and I think it might have been like a museum gift shop type of deal. I don't know. It's older than I am. So yeah, I just have to do that, and then hopefully if I get some more time to sit down and dedicate to this, I can soon end up actually sewing it together and having the final puppet. There's that. The only other thing I've done sewing-wise is make myself a pair of dog print flannel pajama pants, which I'm currently wearing, and I don't really see a good way to show you because my table that holds my laptop that I'm filming on is preventing me from standing up. Not that you necessarily want to see a close-up of my butt wearing flannel dog paw print PJ pants. And I'm not pulling my foot up next to my head to show you. So you'll have to trust me. They're the comfiest thing ever. I like them a lot. So that was my sewing. Not a lot exciting going on there. And then on my other crafts, I've really only been continuing to work on this cigar box recovering. It currently holds my colored pencils. I'm covering it with scrapbook paper that kind of looks like a coloring book sheet. And then for the trim, I'm coloring in that scrapbook paper and gluing it. Okay, I cannot move there we go. And gluing it to make this little trim. And over here, you can see my favorite flower that I've colored. Oh, you may not be able to see him. He's really cool because it's okay, I think you can see kind of like the orange streaks that kind of make it look like orange veins on the yellow flower. So I like that. It just, I'm coloring in a fair amount of detail, and it's a little bit more time consuming than I was originally anticipating. When you last saw it, I only had this strip on it. So I've gotten the edges and then one bottom. So the corners and one bottom edge done since then, which is progress. It's good. And one of the issues that I was having was trying to decide what color to color things. So I actually took my remaining paper and I measured out what I needed to cover the box, so I'm not coloring things that I don't need. And I wrote down what color I want to do each flower in. So I'll have, this one's going to be a yellowy orange, and this one's going to be a deep purple, and this one's going to be a pinkish purple, and so on and so forth. So now that I've gotten that, I've been moving along pretty briskly. I just need to, find some time to keep coloring in the middle of school and all these other things, and mostly into knitting that shawl. So anyway, it's coming along. I'm quite pleased with it. I'm hoping that the next time you see it, it'll be complete, but it's relatively low priority at the moment, so I don't know if that will be the case. So anyway, that is everything, I think. Yes, just taking my list. That is everything that I was going to show you. Like I said, the end of January was not a terribly productive, crafty month for me, but so far, February's been doing well. I'm looking at I have a calendar on the wall that's got what I've done each day on it, color-coded, so I'm just kind of looking to see what I've done. So February's been pretty productive. It's just that most of my time has been spent on that shawl. Once that shawl is done, I'm thinking that I will probably branch out and work on a lot more things because it won't be there. I won't be dwelling on getting that shawl done. So looking forward to that. Hoping that the next time I see you, I'll have an even wider variety of crafts to show off. Not that I really need more crafts, but And I guess that is everything. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. If you have any suggestions for videos or you want me to go into more detail on something, also please leave that in the comments. And like I said before, if you want to help me get to 50 subscribers and you're not already subscribed, please subscribe. And if you already subscribed, good for you. I will see you in my next video. Bye.